Please click on the thumbs up button and the subscribe button if you enjoyed my vlog. Bye for now.
Hi everybody, it's the 1st of December, beautiful Wednesday morning, absolute picture but very very cold. In fact the sun was so strong that I felt I need to put sun cream on. But I wanted to walk and I thought I'd have a look to see what was happening. And the first thing I saw was a pond full of duckweed, and I've never seen it at this time of year before. Usually it's all gone, and I wonder if that's something to do with global warming. Perhaps somebody out there can do a project and let me know. Now I have kept a diary from 1977, and I suppose I could check through these diaries and find out how the weather has changed through the seasons, but it would take a lot of doing, and I would actually at this moment in time I would much prefer to carry on making vlogs that are relevant for now rather than checking up on what's gone off in the past. Well, while I was on site there was lots of dog walkers, lots of people walking on their own, and bird watchers as well actually, and I did have to keep reminding some of them that I was keeping my distance. We are back with the face masks again and keeping social distances, and I don't have a problem with that. I know a lot of people do. They do not like wearing the masks. But I think, well, at my age, I'm gone mid-70s now, I have to protect myself against anything that is out there that I've got no control over. Enough of that, let's get back to the walk. Well, while I was on site this morning, I thought I'd do a check to see how many species I could see in the short period of time I got down there. I think I'd only about a couple of hours spare, if that, maybe an hour and a half. But although it was beautiful, it was very very cold. But I was lucky, I was dressed for the weather. I actually went back indoors and got another layer on when I first left the house. There was 3 types of gulls on site. These are all black-headed gulls, and the one in the foreground is an adult, I believe, in winter plumage. And you can also see what the coloration of the water is. It's a bit dark, isn't it? Now, it's dark because it's been raining. If the water is discoloured like that, you probably have to go somewhere else to see kingfishers. I think they would prefer the water to be clearer. I've never seen them on muddy water, to be honest with you, but I've always seen them in clear water. So they must be able to find clear water somewhere. The depth of water here is not very deep, so we're not going to get diving ducks on this site, but we are going to get lots of dabblers. And I did a quick species count this morning, and I saw jackdaws, robins, blackbirds, I got a goldcrest, would you believe. Crows are used in larders. The apples I showed on my last vlog are still on the ground. They're as hard as iron, them apples. Blue tits on site. Shoveler and gadwall were on the water. I've got a photograph of shoveler later. Magpie was using the larders. There was a goldfinch, a bullfinch and a chaffinch on site. There was a buzzard, Canada geese, coots, mallards, tufted ducks and swans. So not a bad morning's walk. 21 species there, I believe. So quite nice really from all aspects. But it was nice for me to be able to take a few photographs, to see other people. As I said, I'll still keeping my distance, but I was able to chat to a few people from at least 2 meters away from them, and I had a really nice, enjoyable, relaxing walk. Now I was just trying to count now, I had a shirt on, like a vest thing, a jumper, a fleece, a thin fleece and a thick fleece, and a waterproof outer coat on. So I had also my head and I was covered and my hands were covered and I had a scarf on. So I was, to walk, I was just it was quite enough for me. Here again you can see a few gulls, but you've also got a silhouette on the middle right there. I'm not quite sure what it is actually, I can't see. But you've got the Phragmites in the foreground and the background. Now I mentioned the Phragmites a couple of times because it looked really nice in the sunlight. I've got a better picture to show you later, but I also thought I saw a bittern. Now they're very difficult to find, and they are on site, and almost have got a breeding thing going off down there for bitterns to try and get numbers up. They were very scarce at one time, but I think back in 1977 to 1981, when I was on the Carlton Marsh site doing surveys and helping with the management down there, all voluntary, along with lots of other people, I might add. I think we did have sightings of bittern when the vegetation started, so it might have been 82, something like that. But I have got a book out, and it's called The Diaries of a Naturalist, and it's all about Carlton Marsh, about the daily things that we did down there, the work we did down there, some good, some bad, lots of good, some bad. You'll learn as you go along, and I've put it all down in this book for anybody that wants to buy it. They still can buy it. Just give me a contact and I will give you the information. And one thing I should say about going out in the countryside and having a walk, one thing leads to another. And what I've found is, because I've been doing this sort of thing since I was in my 20s, I believe, and I'm now in my 70s, one thing leads to another. And when you get learning about the countryside, all sorts of things can come into play. Here you can see a shoveler, a male shoveler, and the other photograph, which was a very quick one, was a pair of shovelers. Shovelers are called that because they've got a bill like a shovel. But one thing leads to another, as I've just said. So bird watching took a lot of my youth up. That was what I really enjoyed doing that time. But since then, I've moved on to writing about nature, vlogs and blogs about nature. The latest things that I do are things like this, which is my vlogs, and I also make films, and you have to learn all these different aspects. And on top of that, since I retired, which is about 18 years ago now, I went back to learning to draw again. Something I wanted to do as a young boy in class. Teachers said I should do it, but Mum and Dad thought there was no money in art to be made, so they encouraged me to do other things. But so I'm started doing that again now. So photography, making films, drawing, painting, writing about nature, and on it goes. And no one knows what, if I'm still, healthy enough, I may do other things later. I have been asked to give talks, which I've declined. Not really my scene. And I have given talks about how to get published and stuff like that. So it's all that stems from a love of bird watching and building up knowledge. And the one thing about when you get older, you lose a lot of your knowledge that you've picked up. So it's important to write it all down and then read it again and think, oh yeah, I've forgotten all about that. And like photographs bring back things to memory, so does writing. For instance, the first time I saw a fox, a first project I did for a fox, which took me 2 years. And the first time I saw fox cubs, and on it goes. I'll just stop there a moment. Well, this shot is a pair of shovelers, male and a female. The male is the one with all the coloration, and this would have been a rare thing when we first started making the reserve, because we didn't have much water at one point. In fact, we didn't have a lake at all at one point, so you wouldn't have been able to see things like this. But what we did see, and it was a first, I believe, certainly for the reserve and possibly recorded in the area, were ring ouzels. And I was very, very lucky to be able to see ring ouzels down at the Carlton Marsh Nature Reserve. And the ouzels were a flying bird, that is. The ouzels were on a field which had been ploughed over, and it was snowing at that time, and there was, I think, a couple on site, and then I went down again, and there was, I think, 1 or 2 more. But I've never seen one since, and I have tried, when I go out bird watching, I look at everything, and I look everywhere, and I take my time. But I've never seen them since. So I think that would have been a first, and it's recorded somewhere. And Cliff Gorman, who was the recorder then, and still is the recorder now, as far as I know, would probably have all those facts. But again, you could find all that information in the book I've written about the reserve itself, and the progression actually, because there was lots of things down there that weren't needed doing, and we did them. And we did them all off our own sweat and tears, at the weekends and at night in the summer, after we'd worked our shifts, and we were happy to do it in the main. We, like any other team, we had disagreements, but we all shared the common goal of trying to make the reserve into something lasting for our children and grandchildren. Anyway, just to prove what a beautiful morning it was, a bit of Yorkshire coming out there, but I've been asked to leave the Yorkshire in, What a beautiful morning it was. Is the Phragmites is catching all the sun on its dead flowers. All these will blow away. A little bit like bulrush blows away. These will probably blow away as well. Now, while I was down there, I thought I saw a bittern. We have seen bitterns before on site, and what did happen is, from the beginning, is that we had things coming and going. We didn't have things stopping because we didn't have Phragmites like this. It was planted, some of it was planted from what is now the rabbiting site. And so we didn't have anything like this. So we didn't get the reed buntings and things in net great numbers anyway. And the trees behind, we didn't get those nesting birds in those trees because we planted them. They weren't there. And the other side of those trees, it was a roadway for machinery to be able to get down on site and do some work to the dike that is now going all the way around the outer edges of the Carlton Marsh Nature Reserve. And I'm pleased to tell you all that it was my idea to try and get that done. And the reason for that is that we used to get a lot of diesel and petrol seeping into the site. And in fact, it was the only area at one time that never froze up. The small pools of water that we did have never froze up because of the contamination. So we thought of the way around the contamination, and the thing that we did was to have the dike moved all the way around the outside of the reserve. And I said it would also act as a moat, so that people couldn't jump over onto the reserve itself, which they used to do at that time. So all that's in the book. And what else can I tell you about this particular slide? So you could imagine really that bittern could easily hide away in there. You'd never be able to find it. And this is just another picture of the sun catching the tops of the Phragmites flowers. And I don't know if you can see it, but on the far side you can see like a couple of gaps. Now you could imagine a fox being in them gaps, couldn't you, waiting for to catch his prey. And probably are as well. But it is a nature reserve, and nature reserves open to everything on nature. And as we know, one thing leads to another, and as one thing comes in, it feeds something else, and it starts. The whole cycle of nature can be changed just by having a little bit of land like this and developing it a little bit. What you really need on a piece of land that you want to develop is some water that will come in and eventually go out. And if you haven't got the skills to and the money actually to keep water on site, to try and create a little bit of a dam to so that you at least get some water there for damming ducks and waders as well. Now we didn't do everything right because we used to have lots and lots of moor hens on site, I believe there were, and coots, lots of them. And they were on a pond where the hide is now, close to the car park, and you could see them just strutting about in the very shallow waters, and we hardly see great numbers now. Having said that, that's not to suggest that the great numbers are not there. They could be hiding behind stuff like this. And so we don't know about that. Anyway, 2 or 3 days ago we had gale force winds, and this is the result. And although this looks as though it's been blown down a long time, on the left hand side you can possibly see it. It's fairly new wood. It's just dropped down. All that will go back into the ground. Things will feed off it. The cycle will start again. Now, at some point, I'm hoping to do a vlog when it gets warmer, maybe Aprilish, about trees. Fascinating. I could, probably make several vlogs. One of the things about trees is that because people use coal fires, prior to coal, wood fires, there were woods just for making to burn wood, and people couldn't read or write at that time, so they had the man that owned the wood would have a gate on of some description, and the gate would have some kind of a code on it that everybody knew, either 5 bars and 3 bars, a picture maybe, or something like that. So everybody knew that they could not go into that wood unless they paid for it, paid for the wood to be chopped down. But of course things changed when coal came. Everything alters. But that in itself is a fascinating subject. And the other thing, of course, about trees is that we've now learnt that they can communicate with one another, and I'll go into all that later. This particular shot of the swan is just tipping its head, is just to prove that there is a little bit of depth there, and it excuse me, it highlights that the water coloration is reasonable. Don't forget, I should say that prior to making this particular vlog, which I'm struggling to talk about at the moment, it had been snowing, and the snow had thawed, and the dike, I've just mentioned to you, swelled up, but the water on the inside remained constant. And there is a control on the water which I don't know about, because it's a late edition and I don't have the right to go on site. You have to have a permit to go and walk on the site. For instance, people ring birds down there, and they do other projects down there, and they control the water. You can see the water control when you're walking on site, and you can also see where the water course comes in, and there was another inlet as well at one point. The outlet goes down to Cars Lane at Cudworth and carries on in that direction. Usually the water is quite clean in the dike, and it wasn't on this particular day, and I will explain a bit more to you about that. I'm just talking because I'm not timed these slides properly, and they should be a bit shorter actually, and but I'm just talking and telling you what I could remember at that time. Lots of people walking around, and some people wanted to talk to me, and I kept my distance all the time. I'm on 2 or 3 meters away, still wearing a mask if I've not already mentioned that. When I'm in close proximity, I'm waiting to get my 3rd inoculation, the booster. Don't relish it. I must admit, the having inoculations is I'm squeamish, like lots more people, but what do you do? Do you do without it and risk becoming very, very poorly, or do you get the inoculation and hope that if you do catch COVID that you'll not be very ill? Now, I just took this photograph because the sun was catching what was left of the tree. Some greens at the evergreens on the right and left. There's some greens on there and some beautiful browns and some berries as well. Lots of berries on this particular tree or shrub. And you can see in the background how dense it all is, even without leaves. So for a bird to have had a nest in there in the summer, you would never have found it. Now, luckily for me, I can hear the calls, and so I get a rough idea where they are, these birds. Chiff chaff and things like that, they come every year and they come to the same place, and it's fascinating. How can they do that? Now, I've got lots of theories on that, and I've got lots of things that I've yet to disprove or to prove, and probably the next generation of bird watchers will be able to do that on my behalf. I just cannot walk all day like I used to do, and I just cannot stay out in the cold all day like I used to do, no matter how many layers I have on. In fact, in the first 30 years, I would say, I was about 50 years old before I gave up on the motorbikes and decided to get a car. The motorbikes were ideal for bird watching. I could get anywhere and I could cover the bike up and nobody would know it was there. But the cold got to me in there. Now this is down on site. I'm not going to tell you where it is. I want you to try and find it when you are on site. And it's been up quite a long time now, this. Don't know how many years, but quite some time. Not sure who did it. I think Cliff Gorman would have the answer to that one. I would like to think that it was Graham Ibbison, but I don't think it is. Graham does some wonderful work, and you'll see some of his work in Barnsley. You see a depiction of the person who played Kes. He's down there, and we've got our very own Dickie Bird. He's done Dickie Bird for us, and they're all worth seeing actually. Now Dickie Bird, he became very famous, as you know, as with cricket, and he's stuck with us in Barnsley, and he loves Barnsley, and he loves the Barnsley people, and so do I, although I was born in Durham. But that's another story. But anyway, have a look for this. It's harder to find when there's leaves on the trees, almost covered up actually. But when you do see it, you'll never mistake it again. You'll find it every time, and looking for it and trying to find it first time around is very difficult. So let me just stop there a moment. Well, I did mention earlier that it'd been snowing, and you can see there's only a small gap between the water and the bridge. There's usually quite a good gap there, and the small gap tells you that the dike is quite high, partly due to the thawing snow and partly due to the rain that came down last night and the night before. But the going on the bridge takes you to the Ide, and once in the Ide you can have a look out over the large lake if you need to do that. But I just want to point out that the water is all muggy, it's all muddy and grey looking. Now, it could be grey because the sediments have come from the bottom of the dike, and it could also be grey because there's a contaminant in there, which I'll not mention, because sometimes water does become contaminated when it's not going to be detrimental to people's health. But you can also see that there's things growing on this dike now, and it's really established actually, and I can't emphasize too much how pleased I am that the dike was all the way around the reserve site rather than straight through like it used to do at one time before. Now, when the water went through before the dike was formed, it was called a flash flood, and water only came on site when there'd been a deluge of rain, and it formed a small lake which didn't have any water control on it at all, and it used to dry out. But what it did do, because it was in a flash flood situation where there's water there one minute and no water there the next, it used to attract wading birds, and of course we don't attract as many now. But all that you can find in all the information, again, you can find in my book, which stemmed from 1977 to 1981. After that time I went away to do some studies, and I'm pleased to tell you that I went on to do other things as well. But anyway, that's another story. But while we were doing this site, it taught me all sorts of things. We used to have to come down and use theodolites. I'd never used a theodolite before, I didn't know what one was. And so we learnt to do things like that. We learnt how to make runnels, if I may say, be correct, of water to try and get water moving up and down the site before we could get the lakes of water. And also we found out that we could, another story is that the soil down on this site was really fertile because of the flash floods. The water used to bring soil down with it, and that soil we were able to sell to a man who came and did the top lake for us, and he spent quite a long time, and it was very good actually. But every time we tried to do anything, it rained, and it put us back no end. Anyway, for now at least, I think I'll end that vlog. I hope you find some of it interesting. If you have any questions, please ask, and I will try and answer your questions. If I don't know the answers, I'll tell you I don't know the answers. So I hope you've enjoyed the vlog again. If you like it, please press the subscribe button and the bell button, and we'll inform you when the next video is. But of course I do all sorts of videos, not just about nature. So bye for now.